If you've ever wondered why someone would exclusively pump instead of breastfeeding, well, here I am to tell you all of the benefits of exclusive pumping. The first benefit's quite obvious. You can semi-multitask, and I'm not tethered. I can pick this up, this rechargeable pump, get up, and walk wherever I need to walk, and go get things done. For starters, both my hands are free. I'm not tethered to a couch.
I got no strings to hold me down.
I can go get other things done, like washing the dishes or folding laundry, all while I'm pumping. What's also great is that I'm going to pour this side that's being pumped from my left boob, which is the oversupplier, into a milk freezing plastic bag for my storage, my milk storage. And I'm going to take this one being pumped from my right boob, the slacker boob, if you will, and that's going to be just topped with a nipple top, and then I can feed it directly to my baby. I can take the excess from my overachiever breast and pour it into my feeding bottle, top the feeding bottle with a nipple, and it's ready to go. Meanwhile, the rest of this can get frozen and added to my lovely freezer milk stash. Feast your eyes on my frozen breast milk stash, which will make it possible for me to stop pumping sooner and get my life back and my boobs back, and she can just live off of all of this lovely frozen breast milk. Teeth? No teeth, and will never have teeth, nor ever develop the ability to bite your nipple off. Now, the first bit of milk that comes out of your boobs is called Fore milk. It's basically more watery than the rest of your milk, so it can quench your baby's thirst. Now, if they keep sucking long enough, then they get to the hind milk. And the hind milk is more nutrient packed. It's more packed with like fat and stuff. So, as you can see here, by the way, when you're pumping, you get the fat, the hind milk, the nutrient dense milk, and the fore milk all mixed together. In other words, if your baby has a problem latching, or they're not sucking long enough, if they're a creamer, as so they're called, if they only like the first fore milk bit and then they stop sucking, then they're never getting all of this fatty, nutrient-packed hind milk. Not a problem if you're exclusively pumping, because then they get the fore milk and the hind milk all mixed together, all in one shot when you feed them from the bottle. Now let's talk slacker boob. My slacker boob is the right boob, and my left boob always produces roughly 20 milliliters more than my right boob, hence the reason why my right boob is the slacker boob. Now, I wouldn't know that if I wasn't pumping, but because I'm pumping, I know that on average, my left boob is going to produce at least 20 milliliters more than my right boob. And I also know that if I'm not getting the volumes that I'm used to on average, that something might be wrong. For example, a drop in my supply from what I'm used to might mean that I'm developing a clog, and I should start taking some of this stuff to make sure the clog doesn't develop into mastitis. Or it could mean that I just need to change my diet, drink more water, maybe I'm dehydrated. But I know because I'm exclusive pumping, and I know how much my boobs should be producing on average. Yeah, the mouth, not a very clean place in general, right? Exactly, that's my point. So if your baby has a thrush infection in their mouth, so a yeast infection in their mouth, and you're breastfeeding, so your baby puts their thrushy tongue and their thrushy mouth all over your nipples, you then get thrush in your breast, and it really, really hurts. It's not a fun experience. So if you're exclusively pumping, you don't have to worry about getting a thrush infection, a yeast infection, in your boob. The other great thing is that if you have a preemie, then you can supplement your milk. You can add some extra nutrients to the pumped breast milk, Or just in general, if you've got a fussy baby, you can add probiotics to the breast milk, or you can add the not so great tasting vitamin D drops that's necessary for baby right into your pumped breast milk, as opposed to making them drink this directly, because really it tastes awful. The other thing that's really nice is that I can massage out the lumps, or I can kind of like squeeze the breast and help the milk come out with the pump, which is a lot easier to do while pumping as opposed to breastfeeding. Although I'm sure plenty of breastfeeding moms can do it well, but I'm just not effective at it. Better with both my hands free to be able to do it. The other thing that's great about pumping and then bottle feeding is that I know exactly how much my little girl eats every single day on average. So I can keep track in an app like this one, and that was from yesterday. I can get a good idea of how much she should eat in a 24-hour period. Now, over the last month, she was eating a lot more than that. So you can see I've tracked, there we go, we can see I've tracked this whole month and the previous month since she was born. So I know on average she should be getting around 800 milliliters a day. And as you saw the last couple days, she was more like in the 500 range. So I knew something was wrong. Being able to track like this how much they're eating exactly gives you a good idea if maybe something's going on, something's going wrong, and you should take them to the doctor, or maybe they're allergic to something in your diet, or whatever it is. It's a good way to make sure that your baby's gaining weight and that you're keeping track of how much and when they eat. It's also a good indicator then, if you see a substantial increase in the amount they're eating, that you know that your little one might just be going through a growth spurt. Now, there are some days where my ladies are just a little bit more sore than usual. So the great thing about the pump is that I can control the speed and the intensity at which this sucks. So if I wanted to make sure that, say, I was pumping at a less intensity, so not as strong of a suction, I can decrease the suction when my nipples are extra sore, and then gradually increase as they lose sensitivity. And then I can change over to that strong, deep sucking once they're pretty much numb. So you can hear that the suction is much less, and I control that. You can't control how hard or how fast a baby sucks, and they don't care how sore your nipples are. They want the food out now. Another random bonus of exclusive pumping is that unlike other women who have letdowns when babies cry, I don't experience that. So my brain isn't in tuned to the idea of letting down my milk supply when a baby cries. So it just doesn't happen for me. However, it is used to the pressure of a flange going against my boob for the milk to let down. So when I have pressure on my breasts, then the milk does let down, but it doesn't for crying, so bonus. It's also a lot easier to chase a toddler with both your hands free. Now, I've also heard some people make the argument that the baby removes milk from your breasts better than a pump ever could. Now, while that may be true, there's no way to actually quantify that, short of cutting your child open and emptying the contents of their stomach to see how many milliliters was extracted from your boob in comparison to how much was extracted from a pump. There's really no way to quantify your baby being better at removing the milk from your breast than a pump is. And even if they are slightly better, there's still plenty of other good reasons why exclusive pumping is the way to go. And if you're sick of being stuck at home, as many new moms are, and say you want to take the car out for the day, go on a nice date night, if you can leave your kiddo with someone you trust, maybe a family member, friend, and you want to get away in your getaway car, you can do that if you're exclusively pumping, because baby doesn't need to be attached to your breast the whole time. You can take the pump with you out in your car, out on your date, and enjoy yourself away from being stuck at home like a bird in a cage, and thus probably fueling postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety and and just being depressed and lonely in general. Oh, and of course, there's also the fact that if you exclusively breast pump and feed your breast milk in a bottle, you can have somebody else feed your child too. Now, you might find it to be a very bonding moment or bonding experience to have your little one sucking violently on your nipples. But for me, it's a very painful experience. And yes, I know if they have a deep lash, it shouldn't be painful and all that jazz. But for me, it's just never been comfortable to have them sucking on my nipples. It's just not a comfortable experience. And I don't experience that same bonding, like loving, overwhelming, like I love that feeling kind of thing. It's never been the case for me. And I know I'm not the only woman that feels that way. There are plenty of women that don't get that like overwhelming love bond from having their child violently yank at their nipples with their mouth. So if that's you, then exclusive pumping might be for you. And if not, if you really like that bond, then by all means keep breastfeeding. But for those of us that don't like it, just pump, no big deal. And while we're on the topic of the child violently yanking on our nipples for breastfeeding, I also find it rather cruel. Now you might disagree with me, but I find it rather cruel to use your little newborn who is already struggling with the aspect of being hungry for the first time in their life and now having to work really hard for that food to come out of your nipple and burning all the calories to suck on your nipple to get all of the food out, is when people say, oh yeah, just keep your baby on your boob all day to establish your own milk supply. Why? The pump does the same exact thing and it doesn't burn your poor little baby's calories and make them work so hard to get the food and the nourishment out of your body just to establish your own milk supply. The pump literally does the same motion and will help you establish the supply without burning your poor little one's calories off and making them frustrated trying to suck an empty boob. If your baby has some kind of latching issue, maybe they have a lip or a tongue tie, or they have torticollis in their neck so it's hard for them to latch on one breast over the other because their neck is tight, or they can't really latch on in general for whatever physical ailment they've got going on, then you don't have to deal with that with the exclusive pumping route. Additionally, if you are trying to breastfeed and they can only really latch to one breast over the other, what you'll find over time is that one of your nipples will start doing this and the other one will go like this, or vice versa, depending on whichever nipple your little one is latching to and leaving the other one alone. When you exclusive pump, you're not going to have to worry about one of your nipples doing this or this for the rest of your life. You'll still get equal nipples if that's a luxury you care about keeping on your body. And to add on to that point, if your baby is only latching onto one boob while breastfeeding, your other boob is going to be ginormous while this one is kind of like a deflated water balloon. So you won't have to worry about that with exclusive pumping because you're draining both breasts at the same time, and you don't have to deal with one boob being gigantic and rock hard and painful while the other one is deflated and sad like a water balloon. Now, you may or may not agree with using a pacifier for your little one, but if you're breastfeeding, you don't have a choice. You are the pacifier. Your nipples specifically are now the pacifier. And that kind of makes you the only comfort figure that your baby is comfortable with, as opposed to maybe using the pacifier as a comforter and allowing someone else to be able to comfort your child other than just you and your tatas. Also, totally random side note is that it's actually really satisfying to see all the milk come out when you are pumping, versus with breastfeeding, you can't really see how much milk you're producing. So there's that. And by the way, the insurance pays for your breast pump, the cordless kind like this one that's rechargeable, the ones that plug into a wall, or even the ones that go directly into your bra, so completely hands-free. And depending on your insurance, they could also pay for the storage milk bags and the breast pump parts for 24 to 36 months. Look, I'm not saying that the pumping is all peaches and cream here. There's still some cons. And the first biggest con is the fact that you have so much more things to wash. Not only do you have to wash the flanges, you have to wash the little duckbills that go on the flanges, then you have to also wash all of the bottles and the nipples that you put the milk into, and it doesn't stop there. You also get to wash the backflow protectors that keep your pump safe from milk entering the pump itself. So you still have to clean these too. In essence, you're cleaning and sterilizing a lot of things. And the other biggest con is that after you've gone through all the work, waking up at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a.m. Multiple times throughout the night to feed your little one, to change their diaper, change their clothes if they had a blowout in the middle of the morning, or any of those other things, well, they finally go to sleep and you don't get to yet. You still have 15 to 20 minutes of pumping to do before you can go back to sleep. So that's another con. You miss out on just a little bit of extra sleep when we're already so sleep deprived. And the third con to exclusively pumping is that you're kind of always arching forward. You have to let the milk go down the flange, so you can't really just like sit back and relax very well because the milk just goes backwards and accumulates on your tit instead of going into the bottle. So pumping, when you have a pump set up like this, as opposed to the hands-free ones that go in your bra, which you can lean back with, those do let you do that. But these ones here, you have to kind of like lean forward and you kind of get this weird arch in your back where you're constantly leaning forward to let the milk work with gravity and go into the bottle. Whether you decide to breastfeed or formula feed or join me on the dark side and be an exclusive pumper, just remember that a fed baby is the best baby. And you just gotta do whatever's best for you and your family, whatever works for you guys, and don't let any internet troll or mommy war or anybody else tell you otherwise.
No ducks, no glory.